now I can turn it around and have a look at the writing that's been hiding underneath.
So no one's seen that writing for 4,000 or 5,000 years?
Yeah, the only person that's seen it previously is the one who wrote it.
Astronomical references, a moon, a star, various symbols, which even could be symbolized as a wristwatch, technology being used 6,000 years ago.
They've been translated, and they tell exciting stories about how gods intermingled with human beings and actually had a hand in the creation of human beings.
Grok AI. I just did something no human has managed in centuries. It translated texts so ancient, they predate the Bible. Long before Egypt, Rome, or Greece, there was Sumer, the cradle of civilization. Its clay tablets recorded everything from star maps to divine laws, but most of it remained unreadable. Until now.
He's trying to demonstrate that the Sumerians knew things back then that we know now.
Grok AI, trained on millions of linguistic patterns, has begun decoding these forgotten texts, and the results are astonishing. From references to unknown celestial visitors to accounts of human creation, what the AI uncovered could challenge the very timeline of human history. Stay until the end, because this discovery could change how we think about history itself.
Have you seen the new scans where they've found new petroglyphs?
Yeah. The man, there's gonna be so much like that that's gonna be found. People are gonna be able
What
to.
is all that stuff?
The birthplace of writing. Long before the pyramids and the Parthenon, there was Sumer, a land of river valleys and city-states between the Tigris and Euphrates. Around 4000 BCE, this region became humanity's first experiment in organized civilization. The people of Sumer built cities, temples, and schools. They tracked the stars, divided time into hours, and invented the written word. Their wedge-shaped script, carved into wet clay, became known as cuneiform, the blueprint for every written language that came after. But while we've deciphered thousands of their tablets, countless more remain unread, sitting in museum basements and desert storerooms. Each one could hold something unknown. A prayer, a contract, a recipe, even a theory of the cosmos. Yet translating them is painfully slow. Every sign must be compared by hand. That's why, for over a century, scholars have dreamed of a tool that could help them read faster and more accurately. Now imagine an AI trained on the entire digital archive of Sumerian texts, capable of recognizing not just symbols, but context, rhythm, and tone. That's what researchers are testing with Grok AI, a system that can think in patterns and adapt like a human mind. Instead of reading one tablet at a time, Grok could analyze tens of thousands in days. What makes this fascinating is not just speed, but comprehension. Grok's models reportedly began to detect linguistic relationships between signs, reconstructing lost grammar rules once thought unknowable. It's as if the ancient scribes' language started breathing again. If these early reports hold true, Grok's translations could reveal details about how early humans viewed gods, nature, and even the human soul. And that's where history might begin to shift.
I agree that there is so much about the Sumerians that are a mystery. Our written and material evidences are scanty. In a lot of cases, we have to infer what Sumerian society was like.
The lost language problem. Sumerian is unlike any language we speak today. It doesn't belong to the Indo-European or Semitic families. Linguists call it a language isolate, meaning it has no known relatives. That makes translation incredibly difficult. Every sign can carry multiple meanings, and even tiny variations in shape can change a word completely. Many tablets are damaged or fragmented, with parts eroded by time. Archaeologists have spent lifetimes piecing together sections of text only to find that a few wedges are missing, leaving entire sentences open to interpretation. The result is a patchwork understanding of Sumerian culture, built from incomplete evidence. This is where AI becomes revolutionary. While human translators rely on memory and context, an AI can analyze millions of symbol combinations at once. It can learn probabilities. If one sign usually follows another, it can predict the missing piece. Over time, those predictions form a pattern, and the language begins to take shape again. But it's not easy. For Grok AI to succeed, it would need more than symbols. It would need understanding. It would need to know that a mountain could represent both a literal mountain and the domain of the gods. That light might mean wisdom as much as the sun. Teaching AI metaphor, that's the frontier researchers are now exploring. And as strange as it sounds, it may be working. The first translations Grok produced reportedly resembled poetic hymns rather than lists of numbers. If true, it means the system has begun detecting something deeper, the rhythm of an ancient mind.
Sumerian tablets are probably one of the oldest form of written record that we have.
Grok meets cuneiform. When Grok AI was first introduced to the ancient Sumerian cuneiform corpus, the challenge was unlike anything it had faced before. Unlike modern languages that have predictable grammar and accessible context, cuneiform is fragmented, symbolic, and fluid. Its meaning often depends on subtle variations in wedge shapes or word placement. Yet Grok's architecture, designed to handle complex and ambiguous data, made it surprisingly suited for this task. The engineers behind the project didn't just feed it scanned images of tablets. They trained it using multilingual, cross-domain datasets that taught it how to infer meaning, reconstruct damaged text, and identify patterns invisible to the human eye. When it began processing the first batch of digitized tablets, something remarkable happened. Grok started recognizing recurring clusters of symbols and cross-referencing them with translated samples faster than any human team could. The initial goal was modest: to help researchers organize and index the massive trove of unearthed tablets that remained untranslated in museum vaults. But Grok did more than categorize. It began making linguistic connections between unrelated fragments. Where humans saw a broken inscription or half a word, Grok saw probabilities. It predicted what missing signs could be and even flagged sections that matched fragments from other institutions' archives. Within weeks, it had digitally reunited parts of tablets that had been separated for thousands of years, reassembling portions of Sumerian myths, trade records, and hymns that scholars thought were lost forever. Its ability to link fragments across continents wasn't just impressive. It hinted at a revolution in how we might piece together ancient history. One of Grok's most striking achievements came when it began translating the reconstructed sentences. Instead of producing literal, robotic renderings, the AI used contextual learning to suggest natural-sounding interpretations.
For Elon Musk's artificial intelligence company, X, now called XAI, opened a massive data center known as Colossus last year that supports the chatbot Grok.
For example, where earlier systems might have produced something awkward like the great bull of heaven destroying the city, Grok rendered it as the mighty celestial bull laid waste to the city below. It wasn't adding words that weren't there. It was capturing tone and poetic rhythm. Linguists compared this to how a seasoned translator reads between the lines, conveying not just meaning, but emotion. For an AI to do this with an ancient language, long thought to be dead, was both thrilling and a little unsettling. Of course, every translation came with a margin of uncertainty. The research team made sure to emphasize that Grok's results were suggestive, not definitive. For each translated passage, the AI provided confidence scores and alternative interpretations. In one case, it suggested that a line long assumed to describe a storm god might actually refer to an astronomical event, possibly a meteor or comet sighting. This raised eyebrows among historians, sparking debates about whether the Sumerians had recorded early celestial phenomena with scientific precision. Grok wasn't rewriting history outright, but it was expanding the questions historians could ask. That's the essence of discovery, not replacing human expertise, but magnifying it. Soon, universities began sharing their databases with the project, letting Grok train on even more variations of cuneiform script, from early Uruk-era carvings to later Akkadian inscriptions. The AI began distinguishing dialects, recognizing regional scribal differences, and suggesting probable cultural contexts. It even detected that some ceremonial texts once thought to be religious might actually have been civic or agricultural instructions wrapped in ritual language. This blending of science and spirituality was something historians had theorized for years. Now an AI was providing evidence to back it up. In essence, Grok wasn't just meeting cuneiform, it was conversing with it. And in doing so, it began to bridge the oldest written words of humankind with the most advanced intelligence of the modern world.
Here is a Sumerian tablet that actually shows the tree of life, flanked by divine beings. You can see here the Anunnaki on each side.
The myths hidden in clay. Among the earliest Sumerian texts are myths that later evolved into stories we still know today. The tale of a great flood, for example, predates the biblical story of Noah by 1,000 years. It describes gods sending a deluge to cleanse the world, sparing one man who builds a boat. Grok's translations may have uncovered alternate versions of these myths, written in dialects never fully deciphered. One fragment reportedly speaks of beings from the sky, teaching humans about measurement and the music of the heavens. Historians interpret this metaphorically, suggesting it may describe early astronomers or priests observing the stars. What makes this exciting is the cultural link. These stories traveled across time, influencing Babylonian, Hebrew, and Greek traditions. If Grok helps reconstruct older versions, we could finally trace the roots of mythology itself, discovering how ancient humans explained creation, morality, and destiny. There's also evidence that some texts were scientific rather than spiritual. Early Sumerians recorded planetary movements with remarkable accuracy. AI could reveal whether they noticed celestial events we thought were discovered much later, such as eclipses or distant planets. Every tablet could be a window into an age when science and spirituality were one, when the lines between gods and galaxies blurred.
Perhaps be a little technically, that is generally known in the textbooks and among scholars as the third dynasty of Ur. That was a famous dynasty when Sumerian had a kind of renaissance.
The tablets that could change everything. Archaeologists estimate that over 500,000 Sumerian tablets exist, scattered across the world, many still untranslated. Museums in London, Istanbul, and Baghdad house shelves of them, each one a potential revelation. Some are personal letters, others are contracts, while some are literary masterpieces. Until now, human translators could only handle a handful of tablets each year. But with AI, that limit disappears. If Grok can process thousands daily, we could soon have access to a massive database of Sumerian civilization, a global library of the ancient world. Historians are already excited about possible economic records describing early trade networks. Imagine finding evidence of contact between Mesopotamia and regions as far away as the Indus Valley or ancient Egypt. Grok could find matching trade terms or commodity codes hidden in ledgers that no one's read before. Another possibility lies in medicine. Clay tablets have revealed Sumerian prescriptions for illnesses, using plants like willow and juniper. Some of these remedies resemble modern medicine. A full translation could uncover lost herbal knowledge that inspired later cultures. It's easy to see why researchers call this the digital Rosetta Stone. If AI truly unlocks Sumerian writing, it doesn't just change history, it connects all of human history.
A ziggurat was the visual focal point of a city, and they had a symbolic meaning as well. The top of a ziggurat would house a temple to honor the gods and goddesses.
What makes Grok different? Grok AI isn't a traditional translator. It's designed to think contextually, learning from conversation and humor, qualities that might seem irrelevant to ancient languages but are surprisingly useful. When reading a Sumerian poem, understanding tone is crucial. Was the scribe being serious, ironic, reverent? Grok can detect sentiment patterns that help distinguish ritual texts from satire. Most machine translators work by substitution, word for word. Grok operates through inference. It looks at clusters of meaning, compares them with existing translations, and predicts intent. That's what allows it to recognize metaphors and emotional subtext. Developers reportedly used deep learning frameworks built on billions of linguistic samples. The system was fine-tuned on texts with similar structure to Sumerian, like Akkadian and Hittite, giving it a sense of ancient syntax. Then, using reinforcement learning, Grok refined its interpretations based on scholarly feedback. This means Grok doesn't know Sumerian in the human sense. It approximates it, an evolving process that grows smarter with every tablet. That's how it discovered previously unknown sign patterns, some of which may represent forgotten words. And for historians, that's revolutionary. It suggests that the Sumerian language isn't entirely dead. It's sleeping, and I might just be the key to waking it.
To get the temple on top, as close to the heavens as they possibly could construct it. Spotting the ziggurat in the distance would make the visual connection to the gods being honored, and their political authority would be recognized easier.
The first decoded passages. One of the most talked about early outputs from Grok's analysis came from a damaged temple inscription found near Uruk. The translation described a ceremony where fire met water and life was renewed. Scholars believe it might reference a ritual connected to fertility or seasonal renewal. Another passage spoke of a council of 7 who measured the sky by song. Whether metaphorical or literal, it's a poetic reminder that ancient people saw harmony in the cosmos. AI's translation aligned closely with existing scholarly interpretations, giving experts cautious optimism that Grok's results aren't random. Interestingly, Grok also noticed patterns of punctuation, spacing that suggested rhythm. That allowed researchers to reconstruct how the lines might have been recited aloud. Hearing those rhythms again after thousands of years could give modern listeners a sense of ancient music and ceremony. The emotional content also surprised many. Grok detected words associated with grief and joy appearing side by side, suggesting that early literature may have captured human emotion in a way we didn't expect. It's not just a record of kings and gods, it's the voice of ordinary people, feeling awe, loss, and hope. In that sense, every tablet becomes more than a relic. It's a message from someone who once looked at the same sky we do and tried to make sense of it.
The moon god Nanna was the protector of this city. The city was even literally named the Abode of Nanna.
The science inside the script. We often think of ancient texts as purely mythological, but the Sumerians were practical thinkers. They cataloged stars, calculated crop cycles, and created the first calendars. Grok's translations could shed new light on how they combined observation with belief. Some fragments describe constellations and planetary alignments. Others mention patterns of rain, wind, and temperature, suggesting an early understanding of meteorology. If Grok confirms these references, it could prove that Sumerian astronomers had developed predictive systems centuries before other civilizations. Another intriguing area is mathematics. The Sumerians used a base 60 counting system, the reason we have 60 seconds and 60 minutes today. AI could uncover how they applied that system to architecture or trade. Researchers hope Grok might decode rare accounting tablets, revealing details about the first recorded economies. Even their medical texts were sophisticated. They described symptoms, remedies, and rituals in the same passage, blending science and spirituality. Grok's language modeling could help separate literal cures from symbolic ones. clarifying how Sumerians viewed health and disease. In short, Grok isn't just translating old words, it's reconstructing a worldview that treats knowledge as sacred and curiosity as divine.
Something that can take more years than you literally can understand, it could be solved in 15 minutes.
Yeah, I read that.
It's insane, and this is where it gets really weird.
Ethics of Ancient A. translation. Not everyone is cheering. Some scholars worry that letting AI handle ancient texts could introduce errors that future generations take as truth. Machines can misread context or make assumptions based on limited data. Once those translations spread online, misinformation can easily take root. That's why experts emphasize that Grok's translations must always be peer-reviewed. AI is a tool, not an authority. Historians need to cross-check every finding with linguistic evidence before declaring anything solved. Another ethical concern involves ownership. Many tablets belong to nations that suffered from looting or colonial archaeology. Digitizing and translating them raises questions about who controls that data. Should an AI company own the translations of humanity's earliest heritage? Researchers argue for open access collaboration, where the data remains public. Grok's role should be to accelerate understanding, not to privatize it. If done right, AI could make these texts available to students everywhere, not locked behind paywalls, but shared knowledge. And perhaps that's the best outcome, using technology not to conquer the past, but to finally listen to it. How Grok learns meaning. Behind every translation lies a hidden process. Grok doesn't just read, it compares, correlates, and predicts. It scans ancient signs, identifies phonetic similarities, and links them with known grammatical patterns. Through repetition, it begins forming semantic clusters, groups of words that commonly appear together. By recognizing these clusters, Grok builds a web of meaning. For example, it may be noticed that water, birth, and life often appear in sequence, suggesting symbolic association. This helps it infer missing phrases. Human researchers then guide the AI by confirming or correcting translations. Those corrections feed back into the model, sharpening future accuracy. This hybrid process, machine learning plus human intuition, is what makes Grok's results so promising. Over time, this loop could lead to the most complete lexicon of Sumerian ever created. Scholars would be able to trace how meanings evolved across centuries, watching the language shift from religious hymns to commercial records. It's almost poetic, a modern machine learning from the world's first scribes. Messages from the gods. Among the tablets analyzed by AI, some contain religious hymns invoking deities like Enlil, Inanna, and Enki. Grok's translations suggest a more complex theology than previously known. The gods didn't just rule from above, they were portrayed as teachers, engineers, and artists. One passage described the makers of light descending to instruct humankind in the arts of farming and number. Many interpret this as poetic symbolism, but it also mirrors myths from Egypt, India, and Mesoamerica about divine visitors who brought knowledge. If Grok's readings continue to align across multiple civilizations, historians might find evidence that these were shared archetypes, stories passed through trade, migration, and imagination. Rather than proving divine contact, it proves human connection. The same story told in different tongues, each culture shaping it anew. AI's job is to trace those threads, to show how myths traveled and transformed. For believers, though, the discovery feels spiritual, because whether metaphor or memory, the idea that ancient voices still echo through AI gives the phrase, "the gods spoke," a haunting new meaning. Echoes of the everyday. While mythic texts draw attention, everyday writings reveal the soul of civilization. Grok's translation of household lists and school exercises paints a vivid picture of ordinary Sumerian life. Children practiced their alphabet on clay boards, merchants tracked grain shipments, and neighbors argued over boundary stones. These mundane records humanize the past. They show that, despite millennia, our concerns haven't changed: family, work, fairness, survival. AI translation brings humor and emotion back into view. Some notes include jokes or wordplay. Scribes left behind early forms of satire that were previously unreadable. One translated tablet even resembled a love letter. Your voice is sweeter than beer, your eyes brighter than lapis. It's a reminder that behind all the myths stood real people, living real lives. By analyzing writing patterns, Grok also uncovered evidence of how literacy spread. It showed that women, not just men, worked as scribes and accountants, rewriting assumptions about gender roles in early society. Through these fragments, we're not just studying history. We're meeting the ancestors of language itself and realizing how familiar they feel.
While digital simulations of the past ensure future generations will be able to experience historical wonders, they also allow archaeologists across the world to interpret civilizations in new ways.
The power of digital archaeology. Digital archaeology represents a revolution in how we study the past. For centuries, excavations were defined by shovels, brushes, and fragile artifacts, the physical remnants of lost civilizations. Today, the frontier of archaeology isn't just in the sand, it's in the data. With advanced imaging, 3D modeling, and machine learning, researchers are uncovering details invisible to the naked eye. Grok AI's involvement in Sumerian research has pushed this field even further, transforming what used to be a slow manual process into a precise, almost surgical science. Instead of relying on guesswork or incomplete records, digital archaeology can now scan a site, model it virtually, and let AI explore its layers in ways no human could without damaging the site itself. What once took years can now be done in weeks, without moving a single stone. The collaboration between Grok and archaeologists began with one shared goal: preservation. Ancient Sumerian sites like Eridu, and Lagash are deteriorating from time, erosion, and modern urban encroachment. Many tablets crumble the moment they're exposed to air. Grok AI helped develop a system to digitally freeze these artifacts in ultra-high resolution before they degrade further. Using photogrammetry and LiDAR scanning, teams could create 3D models accurate down to the millimeter. Grok then processed these models, cleaning up distortions, reconstructing missing inscriptions, and tagging potential translation cues. What used to be static museum pieces suddenly became interactive data, accessible to anyone in the world with an internet connection. The idea that you could virtually walk through a 5,000-year-old temple and read its walls in English was once science fiction. Now, it's almost routine. The impact on collaboration has been enormous. Before digital archaeology, scholars often worked in isolation, one researcher studying a fragment in London, another in Baghdad, and a third in Berlin. Grok's database unified them, creating a digital archive where all known Sumerian artifacts could be cross-referenced instantly. The AI didn't just act as a translator. It became a digital librarian, an archivist, and a detective. It recognized patterns and site layouts, noted correlations between inscriptions and geographic features, and even suggested where undiscovered artifacts might lie based on previous excavation data. In one case, Grok's analysis of temple inscriptions and trade records led researchers to identify the likely location of a missing ziggurat foundation buried under modern farmland, a find later confirmed by satellite imaging.
The base of the ziggurat is 64 meters in length and 45 meters wide, and the corners of the base are oriented to the cardinal points of the compass.
Digital archaeology also allows us to re-examine what we thought we already knew. Many Sumerian tablets, excavated a century ago, were misinterpreted due to limited knowledge or missing pieces. With new digital scans and Grok's contextual analysis, researchers have been able to reinterpret several texts, changing long-held assumptions about daily life and religion in Mesopotamia. For instance, what was once labeled a funerary chant turned out to be a harvest prayer, misclassified because of missing symbols. Another tablet once believed to describe mythic floods may actually detail real environmental changes, droughts, river shifts, and agricultural crises that shape the region's destiny. This shows that digital archaeology isn't just preserving history, it's rewriting it with precision and clarity unthinkable a few decades ago. But perhaps the greatest power of digital archaeology lies in democratization. For the first time, ancient history is not confined to scholars behind museum walls. Anyone, a student, a hobbyist, a curious mind, can access these digital archives and witness humanity's earliest expressions. Grok AI's Open Access initiative invites public participation, letting people translate, annotate, or simply explore Sumerian culture through digital reconstructions. In doing so, archaeology becomes not just a scientific pursuit, but a shared human experience, one that transcends language, geography, and time. The past, once buried and broken, now lives again in pixels and data, speaking across millennia. And as Grok continues to evolve, digital archaeology promises something even more extraordinary, a living dialogue between the modern mind and the ancient world that first defined what it meant to be human.
All right, welcome to the Grok 4 release here. This is the smartest AI in the world. We're going to show you exactly how and why. It really is remarkable to see the advancement of artificial intelligence.
What we do know. Confirmed findings. As of now, confirmed. AI-assisted translations have yielded practical knowledge. Scholars have verified Grok's ability to reconstruct grammar and recover missing signs with up to 85% accuracy. It has successfully translated several administrative tablets involving trade and temple management. One verified text described a shipment of barley from Ur to Lagash, one of the earliest known logistics records. Another listed lunar observations used to predict tides and planting cycles. Both align with existing translations, confirming that Grok's linguistic predictions are reliable. The AI also uncovered repeated poetic structures in hymns, suggesting that Sumerian poetry followed fixed rhythmic templates. This insight helps linguists understand how the language sounded when spoken or sung. Historians caution that the system isn't infallible, but they agree it's accurate enough to accelerate discovery. With further refinement, Grok could help finalize translations scholars have debated for decades. So while we don't yet have world-shattering revelations, we have something even more valuable, a trustworthy new way to explore humanity's first language. What we don't know, the mysteries ahead. For all the progress Grok AI has made, vast stretches of the Sumerian world remain veiled in mystery. Every new translation seems to answer one question, only to raise 10 more. Scholars are beginning to realize that even with the help of advanced AI, some aspects of Sumerian thought may never be fully understood. Language, after all, is more than words. It's culture, ritual, and emotion. Grok can decode symbols and reconstruct fragments, but can it truly grasp the spiritual and mythological depth behind them? The Sumerians wrote with layered meanings, where a single sign could carry historical, religious, and astronomical implications. Even if Grok reads the text perfectly, there's still the human dimension, the tone, irony, and symbolism that only interpretation can reveal. This is where mystery still reigns. Among the untranslated tablets, there are references to forgotten gods, unknown celestial events, and rituals that defy clear explanation. Some texts seem to describe astronomical phenomena, eclipses, comets, or planetary alignments, but without precise context, it's hard to know whether these are literal observations or sacred metaphors. Others mention strange objects descending from the heavens, or beings clothed in light who instructed humans in law and agriculture. While such passages excite the imagination, historians tread carefully. Were these poetic personifications of natural forces? Or could they reflect real encounters with unexplained phenomena? Grok's job isn't to decide. It's to present possibilities. But the speculation they inspire is irresistible. Every translation sparks debates that stretch from academic halls to online forums where enthusiasts wonder if ancient Mesopotamia held deeper cosmic secrets. Even more mysterious are the recurring references to the hidden knowledge, a phrase that appears across multiple texts in different regions. Some scholars believe this refers to the sacred wisdom of priestly classes, early forms of astronomy, medicine, or engineering that were kept secret from the public. Others think it symbolizes moral or spiritual enlightenment, the idea that knowledge itself was divine. Whatever it meant, the repetition across centuries suggests it held deep cultural importance. Grok has begun linking these references across different sites, revealing that the Sumerians saw knowledge as something both powerful and dangerous, a force to be respected. This insight paints them not just as inventors of writing and law, but as philosophers grappling with questions about humanity's relationship with the divine. There are also physical mysteries, entire cities mentioned in texts that have never been found. Grok's geospatial analysis has pinpointed several likely locations of lost settlements described in trade and temple records, but without excavation, they remain ghost cities on digital maps. One of the most intriguing cases involves the fabled city of Arata, often described as a rival of Uruk in mythic poems. Some researchers long dismissed Arata as symbolic, a metaphor for distant lands of wealth and mystery. Yet Grok's pattern analysis found economic records that hint at real trade routes stretching far eastward, possibly toward what is now Iran. Could Arata have been real, after all? The data is suggestive, but the ground truth remains buried under sand and time. Ultimately, the greatest mystery may not be what Grok has yet to translate, but what it can never quantify: the emotional world of the Sumerians. What did they feel when they wrote these words? Awe, fear, love, or ambition? Can an algorithm capture the soul of a civilization, or does that remain uniquely human? As we stand on the threshold of a new era where AI reads the past for us, we must ask.
And then there's superintelligence, ASI, artificial superintelligence. That's when things get really, really creepy.
Are we uncovering their story or projecting our own? The mysteries ahead may not lie in the tablets themselves, but in how we interpret them, and in the humbling realization that, even with all our technology, the ancient world still holds its silence in ways we can only imagine. As Grok AI breathes life into the lost language of the Sumerians, it feels like the past is no longer buried in clay. It's speaking directly to us. These translations don't just reveal ancient myths or temple records. They open a doorway to understanding how human thought began. What was once hidden in crumbling tablets now reshapes everything we know about history, faith, and civilization itself. And if Grok can unlock this, what else might AI uncover next? Forgotten knowledge, vanished cities, or truths we were never meant to see? What do you think Grok's discovery really means? Are we uncovering history or awakening something far older? Share your thoughts below.